Could Quant hypothetically reach the price of $5,000 in 2025? Well, in theory, I could very well see a situation where that does happen, even though that's not financial advice. But why 2025 more specifically? Why not 2027 or 2028? Let me explain. It's because historically speaking, we do know that usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, are we 18 months removed from the last Bitcoin halving event? We're actually not. We take a look at the last Bitcoin halving event. It happened around April of last year. So if you take a look at that, let's say we add 18 months to that. That's actually around October this year. Now, is this guaranteed? Absolutely not. Is this a surefire date? No. But the way you take a look at it is this. If anything, it gives a good benchmark. And I think, if anything, the run when it comes to altcoins could very well be far from over. Of course, there's going to be the end to the bull run. I'm totally aware of that. But it doesn't feel like that yet. And I think the most recent peak that we saw when it comes to just altcoins in general, also Bitcoin, when it was around $100,000, I highly doubt that with the current bullish factors that we have as of right now, I don't think that's the peak yet. Take a look at how there's over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research, more than ever before in history. If we take a look back in 2021, during the peak of that bull run, there was roughly only around 300 million crypto owners. Also, we take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, the number of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption. I highly doubt that that was the actual peak. I think better days are ahead. Even another individual, we take a look at Charles Hoskinson, who not only is the co-founder of Ethereum, but the founder of Cardano. You know what he said? Back in November of last year, he said 1 to 2 years from then, he could very well see Bitcoin reaching anywhere between $250,000 all the way up to $500,000. I mean, let's just let that sink in. That's really hypothetically fantastic, even if, let's say, it reaches his worst case price prediction scenario for Bitcoin, which is $250,000. I mean, even at that point, $5,000 when it comes to Quant may seem a little bit bearish, in my opinion. And just think about this. When we take a look at something like Quant reaching the price of $5,000, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $60 billion. I get it, it's around a 76x from here, and the price of Quant has went down by a lot, along with a bunch of other altcoins, by the way. Quant is no stranger to that, or should I say other altcoins are also no stranger to this, but the way you take a look at it is this. A $60 billion market cap, give or take, how is that too much? Take a look at Dogecoin back in 2021 with factors that are way less bullish than as of right now. Way less crypto owners, and also it's a meme coin, reaching over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021 years ago. So imagine this time around. I feel like when it comes to something like Quant, why can it hypothetically reach around $60 billion in market cap if something like Dogecoin reached over 80 billion years ago? This is just my mentality, especially right now, again, with factors that are way more bullish. Now, when it comes to Quant, some people think that its fundamentals are really bad, but I disagree with that actually, because when it comes to Quant, more specifically, if we take a look at the Quant network, it's made up of the Overledger OS and the Overledger network. Now, I think the most exciting part when it comes to this is the Overledger OS, because the Overledger network is a little bit whatever, and I'll explain what I mean by how it's not that exciting later on. But even besides that, if we take a look at the Overledger OS, now what does this do? This allows something called a multi-chain application to be built. Now, some people may be wondering, okay, what is a multi-chain application? It's an application that, as the name goes pretty much, is built on top of multiple blockchains instead of just one. Now, what is the benefit of this? First of all, it enhances the quality of it, because if you take a look at it, imagine if, let's say, I can build on one blockchain, take advantage of its strengths over there, and then piggybacking off another blockchain that can kind of supplement the weaknesses that we see with other blockchain and kind of making something very amazing. Isn't that wonderful? Like, for instance, if I want to build an application that is, let's say, very secure and at the same time very fast, traditionally, it's very hard to find a place like that, because let's say someone chooses the Stellar blockchain, it's very fast, but does it have the rock solid reliability and, I would say security that we see something like Bitcoin possesses with its proof of work? Now, arguably, I would say it's kind of hard to get the best of both worlds, right? Sometimes people like to say, hey, nothing is perfect. And when it comes to multi-chain applications, does it make things perfect? Probably not, but I think it's pretty close, if anything, because imagine if I can build an application through the Overledger OS that takes advantage of the speed of the Stellar blockchain, which, like I mentioned before, is very fast. But then at the same time, taking advantage of the Bitcoin blockchain's rock-solid, reliable, well-known security. I mean, can you imagine that? That's basically a very fantastic application, potentially. Now, adoption when it comes to this isn't that great, in my opinion, at least as of right now, but is only expected. I mean, I think that if anything, it takes time. And I'm not saying the adoption is bad or something like that, but I'm just saying like mass scale adoption, right? When it comes to quant, just generally speaking, I feel like that's going to take quite a while. But it doesn't really matter because I think during a fully fledged bull run, people are going to care more so about the narrative, the story, what something could be, as opposed to what it already is. And I think when they take a look at something like quant, which is very revolutionary, basically, I think through the Overledger OS, I would arguably say that it's trying to change the way people build applications. This is a no-brainer for me. It's only natural to assume that there is going to be more applications moving forward. If I believe that the space is going to grow in a positive direction moving forward, which I do believe that, if I believe that adoption is going to increase, if I believe all that, why would I not believe that, hey, there's not going to be any more applications that are going to be built? Of course there are. And naturally, developers are going to look for these advantages. And I think when they take a look at something like the Overledger OS, they're going to be thinking like, wow, this is very amazing potentially. And I think it could really gain a lot of momentum, especially moving forward, which I think just the thought of that, just the narrative of it, could already have very positive ramifications, or should I say a very positive impact during a fully fledged bull run. Now, I'm going to talk about the Overledger network, like I mentioned before, which it really isn't that exciting, but you know what? I'm going to have to mention this because the Overledger network is made up of the Overledger OS users, which I've already talked about the Overledger OS before. And basically on there, these users, they can share their app, their resources, their data, and monetize them. So I guess it's a little bit cool, arguably, but of course, the real McCoy is the Overledger OS. But again, the Quant network, it's made up of two things, the Overledger OS, the Overledger network. I think that when it comes to the Quant network, just generally speaking, it is very amazing. However, even besides that point, Quant is very rare, actually, in my opinion. Now, some people may be thinking, what do you mean by rare, man? That's very subjective. Well, it is. But what is the main benchmark that people usually use when it comes to rarity within this space? I would say it's Bitcoin. They always mention, hey, Bitcoin, 21 million, maximum supply, it's very rare. I'm totally aware of that. But you want to know something that actually has a maximum supply that is way less than that? That's Quant. And that is actually hypothetically true because depending on the site or exchange, it's going to differ a little bit. I've seen in some cases, but even besides that, it's either hovering around 14.6 to around 14.8 million. Now, you got to think about that. Even if we remove, for whatever reason, in a make-believe scenario, 6 million Bitcoin, again, I'm talking about 6 million, from the maximum supply, that's not even the maximum supply of Quant. Now, again, some people may be thinking, okay, what's the point of being rare if, let's say, no one really cares about it? Well, again, like I mentioned before, Quant actually has a good use case. So just imagine that, something that's amazing and rare at the same time. It's never going to defeat Bitcoin. I'm just going to make that clear, by the way, let alone something like Ethereum or something like that. It's never going to defeat these type of projects in terms of attention. But the way you take a look at it is that, you know what? It, if anything, shows that, hey, Quant is actually very rare indeed. Hypothetically, of course, is very subjective. However, here's the thing as well. When it comes to something like Quant, it has the foundation in place. The community is amazing. It has good exchange listings. Fundamentals are fantastic. It doesn't really need to do much more. As of right now, it's literally just a waiting game. Other projects out there, they still have a lot of work to do. Community sometimes isn't the best when it comes to the passion and the drive and the size. When it comes to, again, some projects out there. Also, sometimes they're not really developing. Sometimes also they're developing, but it's in progress. Not to mention some other ones out there. What are they really doing, really? They're doing kind of nothing, right? And the exchange listings are really bad. A lot of other projects out there, they still have a lot to do. But when it comes to this, it doesn't have a lot to do. It's just a waiting game, which is why I like it so much. And again, Quant at the price of $5,000, hypothetically in 2025, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.